welcome everyone to the first Thursday Co-Creators Convergence call. It is September 3rd, and my name is Noelle Marshall, and I'm part of Co-Creators Convergence along with my beloved.
Hi, this is Bob Warner. Good evening, everyone.
And welcome to our call. And we're so excited about our guest tonight. And before we begin, there's new people on the line. I just want to share a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence. We are a group of evolutionary souls dedicated to co-creating a new humanity, inspired by such visionaries as Buckminster Fuller, Barbara Mark Hubbard, and most especially the pure source in each and every one of us. Our intention is to deepen into this emerging consciousness and bring this understanding back home to our communities, our homes, and those we love. And we converge, and our goal is that we're eager to serve, love, and remember our collective higher purpose. And there's 4 ways you can participate in the Co-Creators Convergence. One is right on Facebook as part of our group. You can post your comments and projects and let us know how we can support you in your journey. The second way is through our calls. We have twice a month, the first and third Thursday. We also have an annual gathering at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. And we just had a beautiful gathering last month, and we have another one coming up July 7th through 10th, 2016. So put that on your calendars. And finally, we have a website, co-creatorsconvergence.com, and that's where we have an archive of all the beautiful calls that we've co-created together. So before we introduce our guest tonight, I'm going to ask Bob to do a little centering for us. Just bring us into the present moment, Bob.
Thank you. This is an exciting evening we've anticipated for a long time, and so I'd invite all of us to gather up this moment in our heart with a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Another deep breath in and a deep breath out. Recognizing the sacredness of this moment, the opportunity that we have, each of us have, our choice to set aside all the busyness of the day, all the distractions that are around us in this moment, perhaps with our eyes closed, gently lowered, we can enter the space that is truly our heart space. And knowing that this circle of souls that are on the call tonight, the circle of souls that will join us, that are with us in spirit, and that will listen to this call later, and the larger circle of humanity that we all serve by being here tonight in our heart space, consciously in conversation, sharing that which really matters, and supporting each other in our love missions in the world, whatever that looks like in an outpicturing of the life's experience for each of us. It is truly a blessing for us to be sitting in circle together this evening. If we take one more deep breath in, breathe in that love, and deep breath out, expanding it and sending it to all the places where it will multiply throughout this planet and the universe. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, and thank you, everyone the other folks that have joined us since we began this call. I'd first like to introduce our goddess friend, Jane Sibbett. And Jane is a marvelous actress, writer, director, producer, so many adjectives to explain this multi-talented, multi-dimensional presence. She's a photographer, artist, mother, sister. I like whirling dervish, and I particularly like her laugh. But I'll tell you that Bob and I met Jane through her work with Brazzo, who gazed and brought healing and openings to individuals that gaze with him, and I ended up doing a little volunteer work with Jane and Megan in L.A. And I didn't know, but our paths kept crossing, and I met her again at Boulder when she and Kathy Mason hosted a healer by the name of Massagity, and I had just incredible experiences there. And Jane has, I just continue to follow her because I know that she has just this light that attracts all these amazing beings. So I approached Jane and saw that she was working, not working, but enjoying and manifesting wonderful events with Shavasti and also Abdi. And so what I'd like to do now is just turn the magical talking stick over to our dear friend Jane Sibbett. And Jane, I will allow you to go ahead and introduce Shavasti to us. And I know that you want to tell us about events that you're doing both with the Shavasti and Abdi. And we're all ears. You have the mic.
Oh, thank you, Noelle. It is such an honor to be here. Thank you, both you and Bob. I have loved following your path for quite some time, and so it's just a really cool circle. It's a cool circle to come back around and talk with you. So I have had an extraordinary journey and been asked to help people connect to more people, and so here I am with this lovely Shavasti who came because of a friend recommending his work, and had I heard about him and immediately connected with his beautiful, beautiful energy. He's so compassionate, does such great and deep work, and it's been such a thrill. I know Shavasti is here right now. I got to say, Noelle, I had to, because of the hurricane blowing through, I lost the connection for just a moment. So I just want you to know that if I'm repeating anything you said, it's only because the hurricane blew through and I had to get my connection. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. You haven't repeated a thing. I was just going on and on blabbing about who you are and how we met. So we know. Good. I didn't repeat. I was trying to tap in. Quick, try to get the connection here as the winds are blowing. It's just the skies just opened up. So for me, that's always a great sign of cleansing, and that's a lot of what works is with Shasi and Abdi, and then before that with Mas and Vato. So there's so many great people working on the planet today, and so many light workers that are out there sharing. And I just feel super blessed and honored to be able to share such beautiful souls and their great gifts with the world. So thank you. Thank you for having me. Would you like me to introduce Shavasti? Yes, I'd like you to go ahead and introduce Shavasti, and I do have some familiarization because I've watched, been studying up and saw your beautiful 7-part series you have on Streaming for the Soul. And And so I'm going to turn the magical talking stick over to you, Jane, and please share about all the wonderful healers and teachers that you're bringing. But right now, let's focus on Shavasti.
Yeah. Well, Shavasti, as I said, is someone who introduced me to a woman who had found him, I think, about a year ago. This is a woman who's been following some of the events that I've been helping produce for quite some time. And so we started speaking, and Shavasti at the time was in Thailand, where that's been his home for a little while. And he is, he has a really beautiful and gentle way. He is studied, like many of us, but probably I'm the least of all the people that are here on the call. He studied with so many wonderful people, and has his own special gifts as well. And so we devised, after speaking for a little bit, that we might, before he even came over from Thailand, if we could have these conversations. And so we kind of launched into and created a format so that people could kind of see what it was that might happen in a scenario in a group setting. But But I must say, since we have had the group setting, it's even more special than what you see on the Conversations. It is on Streaming for the Soul.tv, his Conversations, but they're also on his website, and it's Shavasti.com, and also on his Facebook site, and you can have the links right there to these conversations where we go deeper into different issues. And as Shavasti and I were speaking, beautiful, suddenly he would just kind of beautifully and elegantly go into places that I didn't know were tricky zones for me still. Issues that I really thought, with all the work that I've been doing with various healers in the last couple of years, that I really thought were non-issues, but I realized that they were still playing out. And so I might have done the outer cleansing, but I hadn't gone deeper into the inner cleansing. And so that's a lot of what Shavasti's work has been like for me. He so eloquently, deftly targeted a few things and then helped me release them. So he gives you the tools so that you can do the work. And I like that, you know. It's a whole other way than what we've been doing first with Dr. Gazing, with Moss, you know, and his working with the energy in the room like the way that he does. Shavasti really goes in there with some very specific tools. I mean, with his side, he can see. And then you begin working with him in a group scenario or privately. He does beautiful private sessions as well. So that's in a nutshell. We've had a couple of Los Angeles events, and he's got Portland coming up. He's going to do another one in Los Angeles. And so I'd love to introduce him if the time is right now. Hello, Shavasti. Now, Shavasti, you're in Los Angeles right now, not in Thailand today, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I'm in Hollywood at the moment. So yes, so I've been here for a month already. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Welcome. It's just, like I said, it's just an honor to work with someone like Shavasti, who's so gracious and eloquent as well to speak about his path. Shavasti, could you explain to the audience what it is that has brought you to this? I know that you have worked with family constellations, but you have a very special phrase for those who are familiar with family constellations, that you are more than just a family constellation practice.
Yes. Well, that was definitely my past, and not that the past is over and done with, but what I mean is that previously that was my absolute focus, was family constellation work. But in the 18 years that I've been working with that, I've also was initiated into shamanism as a Sangoma in South Africa, and then I went on to work with a Native American shaman who's from who is an Apache, and she lives in Northern California. I should be seeing her in a couple of weeks' time. And I've also been to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. But all of that was really about my own process. I'm a great believer of healer, heal thyself. And so I've never asked a client to go through any process that I personally have not been through myself. Because otherwise, what would my ability be to hold a safe container around that, to really dive deeply? And you've experienced my work in workshops, in a workshop setting, that it really is about changing our relationship to our core self and also to any wounds that are wrapped around the core. So I would really encapsulate my work now as being, it's all about relationships. And what I mean by that is it's about relationship to self, relationship to other, and relationship to the divine. And what I notice in spiritual circles is that many people are really focused on the relationship to the divine. However, when our relationship to self, because in reality there is no difference between self and the divine, but our relationship to self as a real human being and a relationship to other, when they are not healthy, when they don't feel empowered, when they are entangled, then the relationship with the divine will always remain at a distance. In fact, we can project onto the divine a notion of a parent, a good parent or a bad parent, and trying to please that parent. And so it's really about relationship to self, which is a great doorway into relationship with the divine. You see, I'm about to quote somebody, and I can't remember the name of the person I'm quoting. I put it in my book, and I'm thinking, damn, I've forgotten the name of the person. But there's a great quote out there, and if I remember it, I will say it later, that says that you have to be somebody before you become nothing. And so what I see is a lot of people are reaching for this transpersonal or transcendental experience of the divine, reaching for some kind of experience. However, if there's no foundation for us as a human being, and this is really caused by this world of duality that we live in, we create this separation between heaven and earth, and yet in the moments, hours and days, through experiences that I've had when the veil between the two worlds dissolves, that is when there is the realization that there is no difference between a human being and the divine, humanity and the divine, between earth and heaven. And so my work is about building relationships to all of the different ingredients there, and healthy relationships to all of them. So to self, to other, and other includes immediate family members, human beings, and also our ancestors, and then also to the divine. So as above, so below. And the greatest thing is that if you go below enough, you end up above. And so it really is a bottom-up approach that I have.
Beautiful. And very, very effective. I mean, I would say for everyone who comes to the sessions, everybody walks away feeling grateful for the ability to really identify and be able to speak to those places where they can relate to the world in a much more compassionate way. I think that my dialogue with those that are most intimate in my world shifted, as well as my dialogue with the world at large. It really has been a very sweet and sweetening experience.
Mm-hmm. And so what I like to introduce to people is this deeper question of what is goodness? What is really goodness? What does goodness mean? And what are you doing to try and be good? Because very often, if not always, when we're trying to be good, it's often because there's a core belief there that, well, there's something wrong. I need to change something. Something needs to be fixed about me in order to be good. And so part of what I do is to help people build a different relationship to their core wounding. And so that core wounding could be, maybe you felt rejected as a child, maybe you were rejected, maybe you were abandoned, maybe you were spoken to harshly, or beaten, or abused in some way, or grew up in a very unsafe household. And so we often try to fix that which is wrong. Because as a child, we're open. We're very, very open. Children are open and simple, and very often the adults around us are either unable to tolerate that kind of openness, that kind of truth, that kind of light, so they shut us down or contradict us. So we begin to associate having an open heart, or being open, being open to grace, being open to the presence of the heart. And for me, the heart is the abode of the divine. So we associate that with being wounded. And so we do a lot of work in terms of the images we have around spirituality, spiritual enlightenment, what it is to be a good person. We do a lot of work with this belief somehow that we've got to force the heart open. We've got to fix something and just kind of get those doors of the heart open. We've got to work on opening our heart. And what I've discovered is that it does not really work to open the heart. It is the realization that we are gripping our very own heart closed out of fear, terror, shame, and vulnerability is frowned upon in our culture, especially for boys. Boys are not allowed to be afraid, but vulnerability in general, there's a low tolerance for it. And so, in fact, this process, as we begin to reevaluate our relationship to self and all the images that we've taken on about what defines us as a good person or a bad person, then we begin to release the grip on our heart. We begin to take the risk of again being as open as we were, taking the risk that somebody might take advantage of it or hurt us again. But as an adult, we have a capacity to deal with that. We have a different capacity to when we were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And so an important part that I've discovered in terms of our relationship with the divine and discovering the divine that lives in the abode of the heart, the ever-present silent witness of our life. And it's a silent witness to the fact that our very life itself, our life itself is a pilgrimage to the heart. That's all it is. I've given up all notion of this idea that I have a special mission, a God-given mission. I have karma, I have dharma, but it's not some sort of mission to save the planet. If it's a mission to save anything, it's to save myself, from myself. And so therefore my work, this work, is also my path of growth. My path of growth. And so everything that we do, no matter what it is, whether it's like you, Jane, acting on a stage or in TV, or being a mother, or being a baker, or being a writer, or being a stonemason, it doesn't really matter what it is. Everything that we do is part and parcel of this pilgrimage that we're all on to get to know the truth of our very own heart. And for me, there is no greater knowledge than knowing the depths of our very own heart. And so my work is about relationships. How do you relate to yourself? How do you relate in truth to others? And there's a very big difference between truth and opinion. Most people, when they say, I need to express my truth here, are about to express their opinion. Because when we look at the world through the eyes of the heart, there's no judgment, and there is the simplicity of acknowledging what is, looking at what is, and being present with that, and also being able to tolerate the parts of us and being present with the parts of us that want to reject everything, that wants to put everything into nice neat boxes and has decided what's good, what's bad, what's spiritual, what's not spiritual, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, to be inclusive of all of that. And so it's about relationships, relationship to self and other.
Now, Shavasti, I know that when you and I have spoken before, you are often tapping into what's going on as we talk. So, the difference for you when you're giving a workshop with privately or workshop in, a session privately and then a workshop. Mm-hmm. So that people who are interested in spending time with you, what might the difference be? Can you explain that to people?
Between a workshop and working privately? I would say there's probably not that much difference, except that when I'm giving a workshop and I have somebody in the chair next to me and I'm working with them, I'm also tracking the room at the same time. So I'm doing a lot more than just being with the person that I'm with, although the focus is there. Essentially, I look at somebody's energy field. You can call it the aura if you want, and the way in which people hold their energy, and particularly how the energy is flowing up through the central channel, the Sushumna, and through the chakras, and that pretty much tells me where somebody may be stuck or hooked, and there may be chakra cords coming in. Well, there are always chakra cords coming in and out of every chakra, but there might be one in particular that grabs my attention. And so really I start by asking questions. And so my questions are very, very directed, because my great belief is, because I've done this, a lot of the things that I do, it's because I did them a different way before and learned that wasn't working. And so previously, when I worked years ago as a healer, I would see a problem and I would remove it from the client, and then meet them a week later and see that the problem was back again. And so I've developed this way of asking questions so that it comes fully to the client's awareness. Because when we bring the light of consciousness to something, so just as with shame, shame cannot survive being in the light of consciousness. When we bring shame to the fore, when it comes up, when it's spoken of, when we open to it, it then starts to dissolve. And so with specific questions that are then finely tuned, and you hear the way that I talk and the way that I ask my clients to talk. If I have them say something, repeat something, the syntax is very important. It brings something into the light of consciousness. So when the client understands, oh my goodness, I'm really entangled with this. I'm really connected to this either negative situation or to the toxic aspect of this relationship with my ex, my mum, my dad, my child, whatever it is. That's half the work already, right there. That's half the work right there, because then the client is able to feel the cost to themselves. So one of the questions that I ask, or two questions actually, if there's one feeling that you have spent your entire life running from, what would that be? Most people know what that is, even if they don't want to admit it, even if it's uncomfortable. Because somehow we've bought into this idea that spiritual growth is about feeling good all the time. And I would say it's about being authentic. It's authenticity that heals. That's what really heals, and that's what enables us to become these renewed, compassionate human beings. And so, once we become present with that feeling, then the next question is, if most of your life force energy, or if a very good percentage of your life force energy, was not invested in defending and keeping hidden your core wound, what would your life look like? It actually would be quite good for all of you on the call to simply ask yourself that question now. So what would your life look like if a large percentage, maybe even half, maybe even 60% of your life force energy, I've seen that. What would your life look like if a big chunk of your life force energy was not invested in keeping your core wound hidden from the world? What if you had access to all of that energy? Because it is like a weight. It's a weight that people often carry in their belly, in their lower belly, sometimes around the navel or just below the navel, or further up towards the solar plexus, sometimes on the chest, or it's worn like a cloak. It can be a cloak of shame, it can be a cloak of guilt, it can be a cloak of darkness because of the family that I came from, the ancestry. So, because each of us, we get born into a story that is already being told. We don't get born onto a clean slate. So we are born into a story that is already being told. And we take that story on like a cloak. And some of us try to resolve that by rejecting the family, distancing ourselves from the family, seeing ourselves as special, as different. I'm spiritual, they're not spiritual. I'm conscious, they're not conscious. But it doesn't really work, because we still carry it within our energy field. And so if we were to just surrender and realize, goodness, I use a lot of my energy to hide, to really, really hide, because I do not want to suffer betrayal again. I don't want to suffer that level of shame. I don't want anyone to know that I feel ugly. I don't want anyone to know that I feel unwanted, or lonely, or rejected, or bad, or not enough, not good enough. And once we realize we have a lot of energy invested in keeping that hidden from the world, because we're bombarded with images all day long of what you have to look like in order to be considered a good person, what a man is supposed to be, what a real man is supposed to be like, what a real woman is supposed to be like. We're bombarded with these images all the time, and the images are encouraged by friends, and not because they're mean or horrible, it's because we're swimming in the soup of image that separates everything. And so this is the first big step to freedom. And what I say to people is, the way forward with healing is being prepared to tell the absolute truth. To tell the absolute truth. To get out of all the stories and the analysis and the explanation, to really look at what is true. What is really true. Mm-hmm. And so what can be true, my father was violent and used to beat me. And so by all accounts, he's a bad man. Certainly a bad father, and possibly a bad man as well. Well, let's say he's a bad man too. So that's one part of the story, and we can decide that, and we can also assign all of our failures in life and all the difficulties we have in life to the fact that we were beaten as a child by this person who's our father. But there's another truth there too. I have never come across an individual who was treated badly as a child, who did not have love for their perpetrator, especially if the perpetrator is a family member or a family friend of the family, a neighbor, because children love everybody. And so when we have the courage to tell the absolute truth and to go to that place of, I loved this person and yet I was deeply betrayed, and there's the loss there. When we acknowledge that love, when we're able to feel it, not from an idealistic point of view, not from I should forgive him, I should love him, because that does not work. From really going beyond the place of the devastation of betrayal to that love, then what emerges within us is like the Ace of Cups from the Tarot. I don't know if any of you know that image of the Ace of Cups, this fountain, this wellspring of health and healing and youth. That bubbles up inside us, and the shamed child suddenly becomes innocent again. And we start having a lot more access to our life force energy that was previously invested in keeping all of that hidden. And now that it's open, and we experience that we didn't die in the process, that it was safe to be vulnerable, it was safe to open, this is when grace moves in. This is when the breath of God and the hand of the Goddess reaches in more than who we were before, and we experience much more of the totality of who we are, that is beyond that which is good or bad, that is simply seeing the world again through the eyes of the heart. And this point of liberation is for us. Forgiveness can be very difficult when we get tied up in the notion that somehow it absolves the perpetrator of what it is that they did. And part of it is learning that another person's path, another person's karma, is truly none of our business. And so this healing is about the liberation of self, and that we can truly feel love for those who hurt us, and at the same time allow them to gracefully, with the knowledge and the knowing of their own soul, with the divine that lives within them, move through the path of consequences that will follow them for the actions that they participated in. And we can do that from a neutral space, not wanting them to be punished, not getting any glee out of knowing that somehow along the line they will have to pay for what they've done. We become neutral and we bless them and allow them to go on their way. So it's not about letting them off the hook, and not that we have anything invested in that. It's about letting ourselves off the hook and knowing that our only business is our own healing, our own path, and that what happens with the other, what unfolds with the other, is truly none of our business.
Beautiful thing. I want to ask Noelle if you have any desire to see or to experience how Shavasti works right now with you.
Yeah, I've been taking copious notes. I just love everything I've heard so far, and relationship to self and releasing the grip on our own heart and surrendering. And I just every time I think I surrender, Shavasti, it doesn't. Or every time I think I forgive and things like, I guess I'm not complete enough. Because it keeps coming back, and so I'm thinking like, is it a continual process, or is it really just knowing that you've got to get the eye on your own self, and as you said, what's happening to them is none of your business. Does that question make any sense to you?
And I really, yes, it does. Absolutely. I mean, I've had that question myself, for myself, about myself many, many times. So you're not alone with that. So there's probably not a question that anybody could ever ask me that I've never asked myself, or of my own teachers in the past, or one that I've sat with. So that's a really, and I'm glad that you re-mentioned that towards the end of your question. It's none of my business. We get so tied up in, well, I'll have peace once I know that the perpetrator is suffering, once I know that they understand what they did to me. The fact of the matter is, if you're at a level of consciousness that allows you to hurt somebody like that, what is the chances that they're going to get it? That's one very pragmatic way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But in the greater scheme of things, another soul's karmic path is none of our business. And that is so liberating. That's so liberating. Byron Katie says there's three kinds of business: your business, my business, and God's business. I was quite annoyed when people started quoting that to me more than 10 years ago, because I used to say in my workshops there are three kinds of businesses: my business, your business, and fate. I didn't say God's business, I said fate, which is another way of saying the same thing. And so it's good for us to ask ourselves, whose business is it? Well, you could say, well, they hurt me, therefore it's my business. Well, the only part of that's your business is your pain, and how that sets up your relationship to yourself. Because we often hold ourselves hostage by saying, unless that other person either sees what they did to me, or even more than that, they actually apologize for what they did to me, then I cannot have a good relationship with self, because it's their fault that I have a bad relationship with self. So we're actually making our own redemption somebody else's business. So we're in their business in terms of, well, we want to know that they're not getting off the hook, that karma or God or someone is going to spank them and punish them for what they did to us. So we get involved in their business, and then we make our redemption their business too. It doesn't make any sense. So I understand what you say about surrendering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your question was, does it ever end?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that was my question.
I'm basically going to say to you, no, it doesn't.
Mm.
And it doesn't end when we believe that the goal is a pain-free life.
Oh.
When we believe that the goal is a pain-free life, then we'll never be finished with this. And let me explain that. And that's probably horribly unpopular that I've just said that, because everyone's running around trying to manifest a very beautiful life. But let us look at the planet that we're actually living on. So I'll give you an example here. I was in an ashram in India. I'm a devotee of Amma, and so I've been to her ashram several times. And a brief conversation took place there. There were some videos. They were showing videos in the Great Hall, and part of them was some footage of Amma going around to greet mothers and fathers and greet people after the tsunami. You remember the tsunami of 2004? Big tsunami, 250,000 people killed around the Indian Ocean. And there were tears coming out of Amma's eyes. And a woman next to me says, I don't understand, why is Amma crying? Because she's enlightened. And I said to her, so you believe that enlightenment means that she's not allowed to have compassion? That she sees us as being good? What else do you say to a mother whose two children were swept out to sea?
Mm.
The heart of compassion will embrace her and will weep along with her. So once we give up this idea that spirituality is about attaining a pain-free life, and I'm really emphasizing the word pain-free because there's a difference between pain and suffering. I can assure you that in that moment the enlightened being doesn't go home and say, oh, it's terrible this tsunami happened. Why did this tsunami happen? Why did God do this to us? And still be talking about it 10 years later. But in the moment, standing there in the heart of a human woman whose two children were swept out to sea, why can't the Guru be crying with her? Why can't the Guru mourn with her? And so surrendering is about surrendering our suffering, and the suffering comes from the attachment to our stories, to the stories of good and bad that we've told about ourselves, about others, and about our relationship to God. The goal is not a pain-free life because, honey, you could surrender, and I could surrender, and we could be at peace with the world. But there could be an earthquake tomorrow, and your best friend could get killed, or your neighbor could get killed, or your neighbor's child could get killed. So you're going to be standing there in enlightened bliss? No, there will be pain. So whilst we're living on this planet, pain is really unavoidable, but suffering is avoidable. Do you understand the difference?
Absolutely. Yes, it's very, very clear.
So you're able to hear what I'm saying here. So many spiritual people are wrapped up in this race trying to achieve a pain-free life. Mm-hmm. It's an illusion. It really is an illusion. And if my Guru was not crying with that woman, I would be asking some very serious questions about the nature of her being.
Well, this is, you just really helped me so much because I don't know, stars, I don't know, I just feel like things about social justice just really break my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring attention to that, a lot awareness to that. And some people go like, well, you're giving negative energy. You're just making it worse by, and I'm thinking like, but this is breaking my heart, and I just want to share how I'm feeling. And so, I feel like, I feel sometimes chastised for being aware of social issues. Does that make any sense?
Well, that's true. That's true. That can happen. People have some different reactions to it. There are those who are addicted to positive thinking, that the positive is the only good thing if you're spiritual and believe in the law of attraction, that you're only allowed to say and think and do positive things because otherwise you're just being negative. So there's one camp that believes that. And then there's the other camp that are continually ranting and raving about social issues, and that indicates another problem, something else, something unresolved within the self. And it really is about the middle ground. It's about being compassionate, but without railing against the world. Because telling other people they're bad has never really helped them to get you on their side. So there is balance there that can be found. But I have another question for you. You say it's breaking your heart. So why don't you just let your heart break? Surrender to the breaking heart. When we surrender to the breaking heart, it's like the husk being removed from a coconut. The coconut's got that husk around it that we make welcome mats out of eventually. So it's got that husk, and then inside that is the hard shell, and inside that is this white meat and this nutritious liquid that is the perfect food, by the way. You can actually use coconut water in emergencies as a blood transfusion.
Oh.
It is the perfect food. It's perfect balance of electrolytes. It can be used as a saline solution. And so when we fall upon the sword of truth, cuts through our heart, cuts it open. So my invitation to you is, then let your heart break. Then let it break. Really let it break. That is the powerful metaphor, if you like. Yes, the powerful metaphor of the crucifixion. If we look at the crucifixion, and it is also said in the scriptures that Jesus' heart was rent in two. So his heart was torn, literally torn. It was rent in two. And so there was a point in which he surrendered when he said the words, "Father, Father, why hast thou forsaken me?" So this is the breaking of the heart. This is the surrendering of the ego. This is finally surrendering to not knowing. Our whole life, particularly as children, is disciplined around knowing. We take tests at school. We take examinations. We're taught stuff, and we're supposed to know all this stuff. And then they call knowledge intelligence, which is not the same thing. Knowing lots of stuff doesn't make you intelligent. It's how you apply the knowledge that indicates intelligence. But then our intelligence is measured according to what it is that we know. And so what we've had set up throughout our childhood is all of this anxiety around not knowing. I don't know. And so the mind hates not knowing. And yet, the abode of God doesn't even live within the realm of the mind. The mind cannot conceive of it. And yet we're obsessed with knowing and knowing and knowing. And I would say to you that not knowing is the gateway to the abode of the divine. Not knowing is the doorway into the heart, because it is the mind that has opinions. The heart has no opinions. It is in the state of acceptance of what is. It acknowledges and accepts what is. And so, when you say, I don't know, I say, good. Because if you think you know, you don't. And it's really difficult because I'm using words and knowledge and information to explain to a mind with the same words to know something but it cannot know. Do you hear the contradiction in that?
Yeah, yes, I do.
So I'm explaining a reality that the mind cannot know, but to the mind, because it helps you to calm your system a little bit. It helps everybody to calm their system and to know, okay, I don't have to be afraid about not knowing. We're so afraid of not knowing, and so we will invent things to know if we don't know sometimes. And just to calm it and say, you don't know how to surrender until you do. And if you say that something is breaking your heart, then I say, then let it break your heart. Let it break your heart more than it's ever been broken before. Because what happens is that the heart breaks open. And then there will be a greater truth available to you that was previously unknowable.
So Shavasti, I think this is such a beautiful gift to be able to ponder this and to hopefully live this state of acceptance and grace and oneness with all that is. And then there's the questions that pop in for someone like Noelle and Bob, who spend lots of beautiful energy advocating for healthier ways. And just, we could sit here as, I always fight the blob syndrome. Okay, I understand that we should just be accepting as is, but we also, as parents, we would like to ensure that our world is clean and safe and healthy and so our skies are clear, all that. So how does that work with what you're talking about?
Well, there's the one level of being in relationship to the world. What kind of relationship do I want to have with the world? So I'll give you an example of that. I am not fully vegetarian. However, in terms of my relationship with the world, I do not wish to participate in the cruelty involved with factory-produced chicken. It is dissonant with me. It doesn't resonate with me. It is dissonant with me. And I feel okay about explaining that to other people without preaching about it. So for me, the problem lies if me refusing to eat factory chicken, if I believe that makes me good or better than. If that makes me a good person or it makes me better than somebody else. And so I'm not talking against educating people about organic living, educating people about the environment, educating people about compassionate action. I'm not talking about educating people about the homeless and charities. In fact, I encourage all of that. What I want to bring awareness to is getting wrapped up in the belief that somehow it's going to make us good, give us something other than an opportunity to experience ourselves as compassionate human beings. For the heart's longing is to experience itself as love. The heart's longing is to experience itself as love. Does that answer your question, Jane? I just want to make sure that I got it right.
Yes. It does. I mean, because I'm constantly, that's something that I hear, just a lot about acceptance. So I understand that that's not. I get it.
Well, moving into acceptance doesn't mean that we sit at home in acceptance and do nothing in the world. We're here on planet Earth. We're in a physical body. This world is full of motion. So, some individuals, their path is to go and meditate in a cave for 15 years and come out as an enlightened teacher and then teach the world. Some people do have that path. That's very, very clear, because otherwise we wouldn't have them. But for most of us, we're living in the world, and what we're really learning here is compassion. And compassion is quickened, it's deepened when we unattach ourselves from the stories, and particularly the notion of good and bad. And so we're all looking for meaning. Would you not agree? We're all looking for meaning. We want our lives to be meaningful, and that meaningfulness comes from our relationships. That's how I started the call. It's all about relationships. And so we might be in a soup kitchen dishing out soup to homeless people, and in that moment we are in relationship to them, and that relationship has value. It's not just about us giving to them, it's about what we're receiving back in the process. We get to experience the better part of ourselves. And that's the consciousness that I invite everybody to understand. It's not what we're doing that makes us good people. It is through deepening the experience of ourselves and the greater part of ourselves in those actions that enlarges our natural and innate goodness. The soup kitchen is not going to make me good. The experience of myself in my innate goodness as that expands through compassionate action, that's what we're looking for. And so we need to be honest about why we do these things. I do this work primarily for me. I didn't choose this work because God said to me, go save the planet. This work is part of my path of self-discovery. I get to discover who I am through my work. And a byproduct of that is how other people benefit from it. But I didn't come here primarily to benefit you. When I say come here, I mean to incarnate into this body and into this life experience. I came here to discover myself. Are you following that?
Yes, I do. It's an interesting thing, because I know for so many people, when they hear that, it rubs up against, like, whoa, wait a second. Are we supposed to be in service here? Aren't we? But I think that more of us are beginning to realize that we are here on this. I mean, we all have different opinions about what we're here on this planet to do or to be.
Okay. I believe that we're here to be in. I believe that we're here to be in service. It's just that through service we get to discover ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not here to discover somebody else. We're here to discover ourselves in relationship to other.
Yeah.
We need other to experience ourselves. So it really is ultimately about the self. And the other is reflection of self too. So it's namaste. It's God speaking to God.
Yeah.
In the end. Mm-hmm.
Noelle?
Yeah. I was wondering if I might open up and see if there's any, I can open up the lines and see if anybody would like to join the conversation here. And I'm going to put everyone into a Q&A mode. And then if you would like to interact with, then what you need to do is do *6, and then it may ask you to push 1, and that will put you in the queue. So *6. And then it may ask you to confirm it by pushing 1. So we do have someone, looks like Rhonda. And Rhonda, you have the talking stick.
Hey. Wow, thank you first for opening up this conversation, because I was feeling a couple different things. But hi, Jane, and hi, Shavasti. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And I know we've had some email correspondence, so now we're live. And I wasn't on Facebook all day, and I saw the thing, and I said, oh, my gosh, I'll call in here.
Wonderful.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, here in Las Vegas. Anyway, I really resonated with how you brought it back to ourselves, and in all our interactions, whatever they are. My feeling is that all my life the focus was always outside of me. It was always on the other. And, of course, that's where all the drama was. And as I'm going more into myself because there is, I believe you were discussing the layers of consciousness, as I expand in these various levels of consciousness, I can see that it's just more and more coming into myself as I'm coming into touch with what's already there. It's this essence.
So what is the question that's presenting itself at the moment as you're becoming aware of these layers?
My question to you is that, as we're on this journey and we encounter people and we can tell that they're in different places, I mean, do you have any suggestions for that? Because you can tell that everyone is in different places. They're not necessarily at the same conscious level. That's how this world is. It's so noticeable, and so it's navigating in this world. And my question to you is being in it, and when you can see things, and I don't know how. Do you have any feedback in your own experiences with interactions with people?
Absolutely. I would say that the first guideline there is to talk to whoever is there, not who you think should be there.
Yes.
So talk to the person that is actually there, not who you think should be there. So if you believe that everybody or a certain person should have a certain level of consciousness and awareness, and
No, I don't feel that. No, I respect where they're at.
Okay, well then talk to who is actually there. So clarify again a little bit more. So if you're already doing that, talking to who is actually there, rather than who you think should be there. So what is the question and what's the issue?
Well, it's I noticed that since this has happened, that there's been a huge shift in my life where there's just not that much interaction anymore, and I want to ask you if that is typical.
Ah, okay. You mean you're talking about a lack of friends?
Well, yeah, it's since I've shifted in the past couple of years, people just shifted right out. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that there was anything there to push them out. It's just something happened.
That is very often on the path of awakening, and so part of this, the leaving of old friends, and perhaps it could be quite empty for a while, even for a number of years. And that is about relationship to self, discovering relationship to self. Because once we get comfortable with the relationship with self and with our own company, then we are far less likely to be looking for something outside of ourselves. And then we can be in connection with others, where there's an even flow of energy between us, and without there being the expectation of the other person being what we demand or what we think that they should be. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it, it's really important to create spiritual community. And how we do that is through joining groups. There can be chanting groups, meditation groups, singing groups, whatever groups there are, to go out and start finding our community and making contact with individuals. And so it's about taking that step to make contact. So what I would suggest to you is to sit with, what is it about me that shies away from contact? And quite often that can come when much younger, and it can happen a little bit later in life too, where we've had a sense of being invaded, our boundaries not being respected. And so as we begin to open to greater awareness, that this older wound can come up and create that distance with people. Because now we don't know how to feel safe. It's ironic, we don't know how to feel safe being more open and more sensitive and more aware in the world, so there can be a withdrawing process. Does any of that make sense to you?
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I felt transparency, authentic,
right,
and being able to just share from your heart, and whoever's going to accept that, they'll be there. I mean, I've had little glimpses of that. And it scared me because, you know, you can see people sometimes react and they don't like that or whatever it is, but it's not that you want to hurt anyone or upset anyone, but you're just speaking what's naturally there. There's this transparency that's growing there.
Okay.
Well, it also really depends on the level of transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It depends on the level of transparency.
Uh-huh.
Somebody else? I heard somebody else's voice. Yeah.
We also have
Thank you.
Rhonda, are you complete?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All righty. Okay. We are going to, before I have Dinama begin, if anyone else would like to make a question or comment, do *6. Okay. And Dinama, you have the magic talking stick.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your message this evening. I resonate with it so strongly, as I know most of us on the call do, so beautifully guiding us to being ourselves and loving ourselves and being authentic.
Thank you.
And I wanted to say that, or actually just put forth to you the perspective that we are learning to speak to one another vibrationally more than through thought forms and words. And that this is like a light language. We're relearning and remembering. Mm-hmm. And this is how we're connecting in that resonance of the heart with one another.
Nice. Okay. Thank you, Dinama.
Yes. I love you.
Thank you.
You too. All right. And I'm going to hand the magic talking stick to Don Pett.
Hi. Thank you. Hello, everyone. And again, thank you for sharing your wisdom and bringing a group together. Also, thank you to Noel and Bob, who are doing such a marvelous job in opening up these ideas. I always get concerned about what I consider the biggest puzzle, the biggest problem that we're dealing with. And I wonder if you have some thoughts you could share. We have a world that seems to be falling apart. Mm-hmm. And do you have any thoughts about world peace? How do we go about collectively somehow solving this big problem that seems to be very difficult to address? You know, it's true, and I know we've got to address ourselves. I personally believe that you can't give love away unless you have it yourself. It's hard to give away what you don't have. So I'm totally in resonance with your ideas about self. But what about this larger issue? What kind of ideas or thoughts do you have about that?
Well, the larger issue exists because everybody is disconnected from themselves. And so somehow we have become so disconnected from the self that we are not in relationship to our own divine nature, then we're not present with anything that is around us. There are many of us who are seeking a connection with divine nature by living in our upper chakras, and that is causing some extra problems too. So many of us who are walking the world talking about the raising of consciousness and awareness are also part of the problem. And what I mean by that is that if we attach to heaven or to a spiritual ideal, the idea of goodness, in a very big way, then we also miss the point. What is really required on the planet is a growth in consciousness. And that starts with each of us as an individual. And we can't make other people conscious. We can share information, but we have to be careful as to the motivation behind that. What is the real motivation? Because preaching can come into it. There's a lot of perpetrator energy within environmental groups. I've witnessed it, I've seen it, and I've worked with some of the individuals. And so we need to really sit back to really realize what is the real cause of the issue. What is the real cause? What allows us to pollute the planet? And I don't mean them, I don't mean the other, I mean us. Because we're collectively part of it. And there are certain things that we feel powerless to do anything about. And so it really starts with our own consciousness, because we can choose to either ignore it or fight against that which we don't like, or try and convert the others to awakening or consciousness in some way, like we're, missionaries in some way. Or we can say, the world and what it is, the Maya, the illusion of what it is but a reflection of who I am. And so, when we're still caught in this place of strongly seeing a difference between that which is the light and that which is not, that which is heaven and that which is not heaven, that which is good and that which is not good, whilst we're strongly identifying with that, we're still stuck in the polarity. And of course I hear voices that say, but doesn't it matter that billions of plastic bags are running down the rivers and choking up the Pacific Ocean and killing the life there? Well, of course those things matter. So in terms of world peace, that starts with the self, and with the self only. When I was younger, I used to go on demonstrations and I was very angry about the lack of peace. I was a member of an organization called CND, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. And I would demonstrate against the lack of world peace in a very angry way. And so peace starts with the individual. But none of that is to suggest that you sit on your meditation cushion and do nothing. So there is compassionate action, but it's about not being attached to believing that your action makes you good, or makes you better, or makes me good or me better. It's about the realization that the awareness that is us, the awareness that is the witness to our life, the ever-present silent witness that's in our heart, is goodness itself. And that is a separate thing to compassionate action, compassionate education, compassionate sharing. They are different things, but we can take that awareness into that. But the minute we become attached to the idea that somehow that makes us more spiritual, more goodly, more good, then we're lost. Then we're back in the duality of fighting the battle between light and dark and between good and bad. And then we're back into separation again. And it's separation that is causing the problem in the first place. Separation to the authentic self. Not the notion of the divine self, not the image of the divine self, not the image of what we think it is to be good, not all the love masks, the spiritual masks, the peace masks, the holier than thou masks that we can carry. None of those, but connecting to the authentic self. The previous woman that made a comment about this vibration, and that's the truth there. We change our vibration by being in contact with our authentic self and take that into conscious, compassionate action, which can be working for the environment, sharing with others our vision and view of the world, but not in the belief that it's going to make us good or that we should make them good. In the grand scheme of things, and I know this from my near-death experience, in the grand scheme of things, if we destroyed the earth tomorrow, it's unimportant. As shocking as that sounds, the universe is a very, very big place. What is important is if we don't learn the lesson of compassion and of being present as spirit in the physical body. There is no separation between spirit and humanity. We've created that separation. We've created that separation in our consciousness, but in reality, there is none. There's no boundary, there's no border. We are spirit, we are of spirit, but we've come into this reality to become awake within it. We're awake in many, many other realities, but we've come into this one not to prove ourselves worthy of God, not to work through all of our karma so that we get to go somewhere else. We came here to explore the truth of our very own heart within this physical realm. We came here to bring heaven to earth and to realize, to come into the realization that there is no separation between heaven and earth. It is all one. It is all one. Did that answer your question?
Thank you for sharing. That's very thoughtful. I'm a little impatient. I just feel like there's so many difficult things that are going on that I'd like to see some real an urgency. I have that sense of urgency for change. So we do have to.
What I suggest that you do is romance your impatience. Romance it, welcome your impatience, and get to know it. And ask it what it really wants to say. What does your impatience really want to say?
Well, I think it's wanting to tell me that I want to go ahead and do something that's going to make some change. That's what I'm thinking. That's what it seems to me. I'm an admirer of Einstein, who said that the root cause of a problem is that the way we think.
Yes.
We've got to change the way we think, and there's got to be a way that. And if we don't have much time, a lot of the experts that I'm familiar with say we've got 10 years or less before somebody's going to use these weapons, these terrible weapons we have. Somehow we've got to get together and we've got to do something to make some change. That's my sense of impatience. But I certainly think that, as you say, it starts with ourselves.
Absolutely. So I welcome you. I invite you to sit with your impatience and ask the deeper question. Your impatience is telling you to get into action, but there's something else there, and that's my invitation for you to do that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And see what it reveals to you. Yeah.
All right, Shavasti, do you have time for another comment, question here?
Sure. Yes, I'll take one more. One more.
Okay, we'll take one more. Area code 6110. If you'd identify yourself and go ahead with your question.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Uh-huh.
This is Lynn. I did not know if I was unmuted or not. Shavasti, you have, I guess, been reading my mind and answering an awful lot of the things that have been coming up as I've been listening. Mm-hmm. And I'm very much into community and very much into being present, practicing the presence. And I'm reading one of your books, coincidentally, and in a training in Family Systems Constellations, where I've been expanding myself into the ancestral work for healing, bringing peace to the individuals, the family systems, as you well know, and to everything through this work. And is this a doorway? Can this work, in addition to my other work in presence and healing, can this constellation work, which I've been really deepening in, be also a doorway to...
Oh, a doorway, right.
Yeah.
I wasn't too sure what word. I thought you were saying a doorway, but you said doorway. Mm-hmm. Can it be a doorway into what? Sorry about that. Could you
yes,
just
because
that?
You've had so much experience with the working in those realms, and your book and your language is just phenomenal. It's so touching to me. And I'm hearing what you're speaking of now, so I'm assuming you don't do constellations at this
I do.
time. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do. Just in a very different way.
Uh-huh.
In a very different way.
So since I seem to be on this path as well, I'm open to any ideas or insights you might have on how my path, this work, can.
My focus shifted with my family constellation work to looking at the importance of relationship with self. Because it's relationship with self that really does dictate relationship to other. And of course, how we formed our relationship with self was affected by our relationship to others. So when we're children, I've said that we're born into a story that's already being told. And so that narrative, so our parents have a story, our mother has a story, our father has a story, our grandparents, great-grandparents, they all have a story, and we get born into that. And that starts to formulate our relationship to self. And then once the relationship to self has formed in that way, it then can be problematic, depending on how that was done. And it's at least part of it is problematic for all of us. And so I look at it from the point of view of how is this person relating to self as a result of the relationship to the other. And that's really what I work with. Like all modalities, and I include all modalities, can become a prison. They can become part of the story that the mind wants to tell. So family constellation work can become addictive to some people. Every problem becomes something systemic, and they need to resolve it systemic. I can't be free of this until my ancestors are free of it. That's simply not true. That's simply not true. That we can find freedom ourselves, but we also need to look at where is it that we're hooked. And so one of the questions that I ask people all the time is, do you want peace or do you want to be right? And our need to be right about something is very strong with most people. The need that somebody else acknowledges that they hurt us is very strong. And so it's about giving up those basic needs. Because invariably they don't. They either don't acknowledge it or don't even know that they did it, or they won't. They either don't, won't, or can't. One of those. And so we get very hooked into this. And we can also get hooked into, I can't be happy until the world is at peace. Well, that's going to take forever and a day. We've never had world peace, so what makes you think we're going to have it now? And so I help clients who are stuck in waiting for their mother or their father to see the truth of who they are, to guide them to the place where they can accept they simply don't have the capacity. And even if they do, they don't want to. Because we can keep ourselves hostage, waiting for something to happen, or waiting for something to be given to us that is never going to come to us from that person. Or even worse, we try and get it from other people. We try and get the love, the approval, the recognition, the significance from a partner that we didn't get from mum and dad. And we wonder why it ends in divorce or separation. And so it's about relationship with self. And so yes, I still do work with family constellations, and not in the way that I used to do it 18 years ago when I started with, representing the whole family. And Jane see me I do what I call mini focused constellation work now. Did that answer your question?
Oh yes, I am totally understanding what you're saying, and I see it that way as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So,
Shavasti, I'd like to, this is Noelle, and I'd like to thank you, and I'm going to turn this over to Jane because I know she wants to tell everyone how to get in touch with you and about your book, about your workshops. And Jane, I'm going to hand the magic talking stick over to you.
Thank you, Noelle, and thank you, Shavasti, and everyone who is listening and had their questions. I'm so grateful for today. If you want more information about Shavasti, or if you would like to work with him either one-on-one or even invite him to where you are, he's very open. He doesn't have much more time here in the United States, but he would very much like to connect with you, and you can do that through Shavasti.com. That's SHAVASTI.com, and you obviously know that from the invitation. And we so would warmly welcome you to any sessions that are coming up. I know he's got Portland coming up, but there's a whole opportunity for people to meet with him one-on-one online, or create another group situation in another town near you. And it doesn't take a whole lot, but it does take someone who really wants to do the work. So thank you for that, Shavasti. And I also want to say, I know that today we were going to talk also with Abdi, who it was a fault of mine that I had given him the wrong date, and he was traveling today, so he was not able to be a part of today's call. And Abdi is another beautiful, very, very gifted soul who is traveling around the world with his amazing gift. And more information on him on abdi.info. That's A-B-D-Y. That's A as in apple, B as in boy, D as in dog, Y, .info. And we have a tour coming up, actually starting in New York, but I don't start traveling with Abdi until the 21st, and we go to Boulder first. Phoenix first. Phoenix, and then Boulder. So Phoenix on the 21st, Boulder on the 22nd, Seattle on the 23rd, Portland on the 24th, San Francisco on the 25th, Encinitas and Venice on the 26th, because he likes to travel. And then we have all the events on the 27th in Woodland Hills. So we invite people to join us for any of these. And another really spectacular and very gifted in a way that I've never felt before. I feel so greatly blessed that I can even talk about Shavasti and Abdi in the same phone call, because they're apples and oranges in the way that they approach things. but it's the kind of work that with Abdi, you allow the right circumstances to come into your life, or you allow yourself to have this interface with spirit where suddenly things begin to align. And I don't think it's any mistake that Shavasti came in when he did, right as soon as I had met Abdi also, because there was another layer of work for me to do. And so I really encourage people to look at the whole banquet table of opportunity that's out there. And I hope I can see you out there on the trail too with everyone. I haven't been on the trail for a while, so it'll be nice to be there. And we'll have more information about Shavasti's next time on his website. Again, shavasti.com. Okay.
Well, Jane, this is Bob, and I just want to wrap up for the evening. This has been such a delicious time together. And Shavasti, what an incredible gift you are to the world and to us this evening and those that will have the chance to listen to this. I just really taking in so much of this for myself personally and think of some very practical things. We're going to visit our congressman next week in Washington, D.C., and our congressional delegation, and you've just given me a whole new way to think about this through the lens of, am I trying to be good? Am I trying to make somebody else wrong? And I'll be carrying the message in my heart into that very practical action next week. And so,
I wish you so well with that. You know, we have to appeal to our politicians, and when we can only reach them through the heart. That's the only way to do it. Good. I'm glad, and a very good timing. And don't insist that you're perfect with that either. So take my teaching and do what you can do with it. You know, don't try and be perfect with it. If you go into some of your old ways of making yourself wrong or the other person wrong, be gentle with yourself with that. Just do what you can. Just do what you can. That's the only thing that's important, doing what you can. Yeah.
Well, we very much appreciate you sharing with us this evening. Jane, thank you for bringing Shavasti to us. And so Noelle has unmuted everyone, so there's an opportunity for all of us to share our joy in these final couple of moments.